And now it is my great pleasure to welcome Rev Judith Elia, who's going to join me up here in just a minute. She's an ordained unity minister serving diverse congregations for over 30 years. She graduated from the Eco Village training program at Fintorn Foundation in Scotland. Wow, with a permaculture design certificate in 2014. I love reading your bio. She grew up in a family of tree lovers and learned to garden with God from the cloistered nuns across the street from her childhood home in Niagara Falls, New York. She has recently become fascinated with forest medicine and is gathering friends far and near to honor, protect, plant, and nurture our relationship with trees and the living earth. She lives in Santa Maria, although now I believe you live here. This will be updated with Lola, the lovely golden love. You can bring Lola. So exciting. Welcome. You should write a book. That's such a fun bio. Oh, hold on. There you go. You're live.
I'm so happy and grateful to be here in my uncensored fellowship. I felt that I was in my little safe place in Central California. And when I would Zoom in with you once a month, I could completely be myself. And for that, I am eternally grateful to this community. I have been connected with this fellowship, I think over 30 years, since I lived at the yoga center a very long time ago, and would come here on occasion and speak here sometimes. And so for all these years, you've held a very special place in my heart. And I used to live in Vieira, and before I lived in Vieira, I fought against the development of that land. How many of you remember the Sierra Club and so many other environmental organizations trying to stop the Duda family from building on the estuary? Anybody? Yeah, it was a lot of years ago. And I moved away after that for a while, went to ministerial school, and then came back and actually bought a spec house in Vieira, like one of the first houses, that they build in a community. And spoonbills and, all kinds of species of gopher tortoises and armadillos and snakes, running for safety all over that land, which is an estuary, which we were right to try to save. And I got to see that up close and personal. And it was really life-changing for me. Do you need me to do anything with this? Got it. Got it. So I wrote this. I woke up in the middle of the night because I felt really heartbroken about the situation in Brevard County and the destruction of this really precious estuary land. And so I wrote this in the middle of the night, and it became my testament. And it has remained so through the fires, through the floods, through all of the hurricanes, through everything. It has still served me well. Today, now, in this moment, I awaken to a new day. A day with infinite possibilities, a day which has never been before today, right now, in this moment. I promise that I will dig down deep beneath the cement and the blacktop of my own soul and touch the living, breathing, pulsing soil of the Earth Mother. I will dig my fingers deep into her flesh, and I will remember what sustains me. It's not personal achievement. It's not possessions or fame. It's this fertile soil this sacred ground, whose back I walk upon, and whose rivers I drink, and whose bounty fills my belly. Today, now, in this moment, I vow to live simply and gratefully with compassion and love for all beings that share this life with me. And I will reach out and touch a fellow citizen of this planet. And I will run my fingers through their fur, rustle their feathers, feel their scales, shell, skin. And remember what sustains us. It's not fame or fortune. It's food and breath and love and beauty and life and death that sustains us. It's trees and breeze and otters and seas that sustain us today, right now in this moment. I give thanks for this miraculous life and every rainbow-colored creature that reminds me I'm just one thread in the tapestry of life. Right here on this earth that is whirling, twirling through space. And so I pray, I affirm, may all beings be well and happy. Say that with me. May all beings be well and happy. One more time. May all beings be well and happy. To this, I dedicate this day. So this affirmative led me in many directions. It led me to a ministry in Fort Pierce where we saved the gopher tortoises and where we worked with developers there to create safe zones for them. It led me to Findhorn to go through their Eco Village training program. It led me to understand and to honor the Gandhian way of life that they live at the yoga center down the road, that minimalist training with Ma Yoga Shakti was essential to being who I am today. It has helped me remarkably to live through all of the fires and the flood of the Oroville Dam, to have trained in this way. And what I'm here to share with you today about is really what I call the R&R of our time: resiliency and regeneration. For me, they're the keynotes of what's being asked of us right now. And my training in that definitely was deepened at the yoga center of Ma Yoga Shakti. And what we're learning is that resiliency comes from mindfulness, meditation, awareness, learning to live in balance, and being connected with others and the place we live and the creatures who share that place with us and all of the world. Our deep connections are what keep us energized. And I call this new research the 3 M's: mindfulness, movement, and music, because those 3 things are what we're learning heals us. And I'm going to be back in a month and I'm going to give you a much bigger overview of that and the current research in that area. But right now, I just want to give you a big global overview of resilience. The ability to respond flexibly with strength and courage to challenging and changing conditions. Resiliency is bouncing back from stress. Resiliency is facing fear of danger or lack of safety with increased positive energy and health. So living in a situation where you are not safe, which is basically the situation in California a lot of the time, and many places in our world where you're on red alert for long periods of time. It's that way in Alaska right now, in New Mexico and Arizona. There are millions of people, perhaps billions, on this planet that are living without safety. And when you are in that situation, when you're basically homeless because you don't know if your home is going to be standing, when you have to live out of your car because you're on red alert and you're being told to keep your possessions safe for a speedy exit because your whole town might burn down, when you're unable to breathe quality air, when you're unable to go outside because of toxic ash, those things cause our cortisol level to go off the charts, right? And our stress, if over time we're in that condition, which many people are today, it depletes our energy and can lead to disease. So to be in the fire zone during a coronavirus is a double whammy, right? Because you're isolated and people are sick and they're dying and there's so much fear mongering going on in the media and there's so much confusion about what the right thing to do is. So the good news is that we can build psychological, physiological, and spiritual resilience skills. They're not innate. We're literally learning through research and education and practice that we become resilient in greater depth when we give what we want to receive. When we put out what we want, we become stronger in the broken places. Many of us who've lived through natural disasters look back at those times and realize some of those times were the best of the times of our lives, when we felt most connected to our neighbors, when we felt a mission and a purpose in life. I remember one of my great spiritual inspirers, a woman that taught Tai Chi and Qigong in this little town of Oroville where I was living for decades, a Hawaiian Native American woman. And she did it for free, just whatever people could put, towards her gas money or whatever. And she did it twice a week, for everyone. And people would bring their abundance of agricultural gifts to this class and just put them out for people to take. That is the beauty of an agricultural community, the giving and the receiving of fresh organic foods. So this little Tai Chi community was pretty well knit for many years, and this teacher was really loved. And when her house burned down in Paradise, she was close to 80. She lived with her elders, her native elders and teachers, in a tent on the grounds of the Inipi, the Sweat Lodge, for a long time before she could get any kind of housing in the winter in conditions that were deplorable. And her family kept asking her to leave, like, come live with us in Oregon, go to a hotel, we will pay for it. All of us were encouraging her to leave the town. And she said, this is not the time to leave your community. This is a time to be with your community. And that person is stronger today. I remember one time doing Qigong with her. This is a person of great patience and determination. And I always thought these movements that she was teaching me were a little strange. And she taught in the old school kind of way, so that you just followed her. There wasn't a lot of questions and answers. And one time she just did this movement in a very poised way and just burst into joy and said, "I did it." And I said, "What?" And she said, "I have been trying for at least a decade to do that move after my stroke." A decade of practice to do a move after a stroke. I never knew she had a stroke. I just thought she did the movements differently than most people I knew. You know, there's different forms of Qigong. And wow, my respect and my understanding of her just went way up. During the last time I lived in Oroville, a few years ago, there was this huge fire that started in a small town that produced a lot of really great berries and spread because of the winds, tornado-like, into this huge complex fire. But we knew in this little town of Oroville, a lot of people who had lost their homes in this really sweet little community. And I had just gotten there, and I had 3 women friends that I was close to in my neighborhood, one of which had lost everything she ever owned: her art studio, all her supplies, her home, all her valuables, everything in the campfire in Paradise. And she and I and 2 other women decided that we would become a vehicle for accepting money. We'd figure out a way to accept money to give people who imminently needed it. Because from our experiences with all these fires, we realized that there's long lines, there's paperwork. You know, people need money right away. That's really what they need, you know, to buy their family's food, to buy supplies, to do, you know, what they need to do, replace their car, whatever it is. And so along with a lovely minister at the Center for Spiritual Living, we started a fund, and we just gave it away as it came in. And I cannot tell you how fulfilling that was, to be in the midst of the fire zone and to just simply have people email us or call us and tell us what they needed, and have a fund to hand it out to them as much as we could. And we were amazed, really, because oftentimes we'd go to meet someone in a parking lot somewhere with a bunch of kids, and, you know, we would give them $500 because that's all we had. And they would burst out crying like it was $1 million, you know, because to them, it was what they needed right then. So the gift is in the giving. That's what the research shows. Doing something, anything as simple as that, to help other people builds energy, strength, and resiliency. If you're interested, you can download an app. It's called Care for the Caregivers, because we're all caregivers now. We're all giving and receiving because of the situations that we're all in. Many of us have been deeply affected by the pandemic. Some of us haven't, but some of us have been affected in other ways. And so we're in a situation where we really need to learn how to care for ourselves. And the more that we care for ourselves, the more that we have to give. So the Care for Caregivers app is a little gem. It's free, of meditations and inspirations about resiliency. And you can do them, every day. They're all different kinds of things. Because what we know is that resiliency is about being aware of what's happening in our mind, our emotions, our bodies, and being able to move, even if it's a walk or a stretch, because that can help you internally as well as externally to move through something. And to stay in balance with your body, mind, spirit, and nature, and connected to each other. Doing all those things are essential medicine right now for all of us. Short moments of awareness, short moments of movement, short moments of connecting many times throughout the day are actually much more powerful than sitting down and doing something for a long period of time. We used to think stiff upper lip, right? You have to meditate longer, be still, quiet, longer periods of time, go off to the cave. What we're learning now, and I'll be telling you more about that next time I'm here, is that actually shorter, more times is more beneficial for your brain, your body, and your spirit. What is regeneration? The other R. I've been talking a lot about resiliency. Regeneration is the process of renewal, restoration, and growth that makes cells, organisms, and ecosystems resilient to events that cause disturbance or damage. And every species is capable of regeneration, from bacteria to humans. Spiritual regeneration, in the tradition of Christianity and many other traditions as well, is a rebirth. Symbolically, it's your spiritual resiliency, your ability to, as St. Paul said, die daily and then resurrect yourself, to continue to seed your own inspiration. And one of the best books, I think, right now about this idea of spiritual regeneration and how to do that, how to actually detach from what's happening in the world and detach from the media and detach from your own ego, is Michael Singer's newest book called Living Untethered. Now, he did a book on Living Untethered years ago, so this is the sequel. But the message of Living Untethered is that we can untether ourselves from the passages that we see as being permanent conditions or conditions that we can't do anything about. And so we drive ourselves crazy, kind of like throwing a stone at a mirror. When we can't change the image, we can't change what's happening right now. But by untethering ourselves from that, we can connect with our own inner inspiration to move in the direction of something positive for ourselves and our planet. I believe, and the research shows, we're infinitely resilient with ultimate neuroplasticity. That means there's no limit on what your brain and body can regenerate. There doesn't seem to be any limit on that. And that's the good news of our day, that amidst all the catastrophes, we can rise even stronger in the broken places. We can heal and transform individually and collectively. And through our imagination and connections, we can evolve humanity, nurture humanity in the direction of a more positive future. We can rewire and fire our collective heart and brain power for the common good. We can resonate in the direction of love and compassion for all humans and the living earth. Thank you for having me today.